It has been 2 weeks since this whole thing started. It all started off with a tanker accident. It was all over the news. Everyone thought it was just another oil spill, and there were plenty of volunteers, plenty of people wanting to help the poor, defenseless animals, and plenty of victims. And once of the tanker accident, it started happening. The animals had gone crazy. They were scratching and biting and cleaning up the volunteers. They said that it was advised to affect whatever was in that tanker. Rescue workers were still trying to get the crew out onto the ship. They could only hear screaming inside. There were screams to open the doors, but that was all when it went to hell, and as soon as they cut the door out. They were about 6 minutes of broadcast before it went silent. 6 minutes of screaming and agony. The ship crew were attacked, and rescue workers, like rabid baboons, they were breaking bones and tearing flesh. The people on the shore weren't faring any better. Those who had been attacked by animals were attacking everyone else. It was worse than the war zone report. It was a sheer brutality, and yet the broadcast, it still went on for 6 minutes. Then there was 6 minutes, and then the blank faces. Nobody could explain what was happening. They tried to continue with their regular news, the comedy, the weather, and the cute human interest story, but they couldn't make us unsee what we saw. I tried to continue with my regular existence, but every time I switched on the news or walked by a newsstand, I was there. It was a big mystery. They had some explanations. It was infection, or maybe brain parasites, but it didn't matter. It wasn't the infection we were all afraid of, it was them. 4 days after the initial report, and a state of emergency was raised, and yet we've all seen this before. It's in every zombie movie ever. People who know who to trust, people stockpiling on food and weapons. Some tried to flee, but it seems that every zombie movie is right. They didn't make it. 3 days later, they arrived in my town. I was expecting moans, shuffling corpses, and dismembered bodies, but that was where all the movies lied. They ran out through the streets, screaming. I remember running to my front door as fast as I could, locking, barricading, and doing anything I could to make it stay shut. Then I headed towards the window. I was on the second story, and I could see the carnage. They were unstoppable. There they were unaware. The group that had made their way through the building across the street. They had jumped right through the plate of glass windows, and even through the shards slicing through them made no difference. They just kept coming. My barricade wasn't going to hold. I rushed down to my flat, grabbing my supplies and jamming them into the most secure room of the flat. I went back to one last look at the street. I wish I hadn't. In my second-story window, my face went to one of those that they knew I was. I was quickly dashed into the room and locked the door. I don't even have that panic kind of room or secure basement, so the safest place I could think of was my bathroom. There were no windows and only one door, which had a lock. I had to fill the sink and bathtub full of water so I could stay for a while. I sat there in the dark room, distant screams in my ears. I began to feel that I might have overreacted. It may have been 2 hours with no sign of them. It actually got quieter, and even though I still had moved on, maybe I could leave the room and go to the kitchen, could grab some more food, to wait it out. A loud crash then came through the door, and there was a sound of someone running with full force to the door, knocking down the barricade behind it. There were a couple more crashes before I knew they were inside. There were rapid footsteps moving around the flat, a couple of screams, and then a bang at the wall beside me. My eyes were open to the wildest and even pitch-black darkness of the room. There was another bang, and then another, and then I knew that I was scared. There was a zombie nightmare I had been expecting from the start. I had nowhere to run. There was only much time before they break in, so I sat back to my door, hoping my extra weight would make it harder for them to get in. Then it got worse. "Why don't you open the door?" Then there was a voice on the opposite side of the door. There were no screams or moans, just quiet, whispery voice. There was even none of them. "We've came for you. You'll be happier if you open the door. It's not so bad." The whispery voices became more of the noises trying to persuade me, tried to break me, tried to fool me. I even had to imagine about the moaning zombies that would drive people insane. But this was worse, a siren call. I sat in the darkness and hoped that in parade that if they wouldn't get bored. But they didn't get bored. Do they not leave? I managed to use a mirror to peek under the door, to be greeted by horrible, unblinking eyes, blood-smeared faces, screams, and even horrible whispers. That was 2 days ago. I don't know what to do anymore. Maybe it won't be so bad. And that, my little pretties, was Persuaded. I guess you could kind of say it's a zombie creepypasta. I guess you could just say it's a zombie creepypasta because this is literally about zombies. Okay. What are my final thoughts on the story? Well, I could definitely say that this is a pretty good creepypasta. I'm not gonna lie. This is actually one of the best zombie creepypastas I've ever seen. I know there are some other zombie creepypastas that did pretty good, and I know some people go out of their way and kind of doing something that looked pretty good. And I could definitely say that the story actually played out pretty well. Now, a lot of other people like Creepypasta have narrated this, and yeah, a few other individuals, narrators have sat there and narrated the story. Now, this story was written by Chris Stewart. I think that's how you spell his name. Chris Stewart. I'm just going to say this right now. This was an awesome story, Chris Stewart. You did amazing with this story. I have to say, this story actually played out pretty well with the whole concept. Now, the concept of this story, I definitely have to say that it is really well made in detail. It actually played out a pretty good concept with what, this story is about. About somebody trying to survive a zombie apocalypse. This, I could definitely say, was actually pretty believable. It actually says that it's pretty good. So I could definitely say that it's actually a pretty freaky story, I'm not gonna lie. So I definitely have to say, when I first read this story, I think sometime back, about a few, I think it was sometime in 2019 when I touched this story. I don't remember if I touched it back then. But I absolutely love how this went out. It was really well made in detail. And now that I'm reading this again, I actually remember a few of my friends actually said that this was actually a pretty good pasta. So now I'm going out of my way and narrated this. So yeah. Anyways, what did I actually think? Well, I could definitely say that the concept itself is actually, well, I know it's a zombie creepypasta, but it was actually kind of reminds me of the zombie movies. I know that's what the pasta, is originally going to be portraying. It's actually pretty well made in detail when it came to the story. So I could definitely say that the story actually had a really good concept. It actually flowed out really well. Now, I could definitely say that the story actually had a great, concept to it. I really do like that the fact that the story actually, portrayed pretty good zombies. And when there's even blood or gore, there wasn't really too much blood and gore in it, but there were some pretty interesting references of it in it, so that's definitely something I'm gonna say. But I could definitely say when there's blood, there's no hyper-realistic blood or gore, not like most creepypasta stories tend to go out of their way and do nowadays. Which most of them happen to be on Goshia that like to do that, but surprisingly not this one. This story I know this is an old story, so I can definitely give the story, benefit of the doubt. It's actually a pretty good story for what it is, so I could definitely say that this story actually went out of their way, and, the author went out of his way his way pretty much, and actually did a pretty good job with this. So I definitely have to say there's definitely a lot going for with this story, so I have to say that this was actually pretty well made in detail. It actually flowed out well with whole concept of it. So I definitely have to say, I could see this story being a pretty interesting, movie. If someone were to make a movie based on this, if this creepypasta based on what it is was actually turned into a movie, that would be quite interesting. I would really like to see that. Me being a zombie fan, a huge zombie fan, I could really see someone sitting there and, making a zombie movie and maybe use this as a title or something. that would actually be pretty cool. Or if the whole story becomes a movie, I would definitely watch it. That actually is like pretty interesting and well detailed. So, I guess that's kind of what I have to say. Now, the grammar of the story is really good and well made. I really do appreciate the good grammar in this story. So that's one of the reasons why I really was able to read this without any trouble. I did have maybe some issues, maybe just the stuttering, but as you could say, it's my autism, cause that's kind of why I stutter at times, but do not say that it's an excuse because I had a few people saying that. I'm not saying any of you guys did, but a few people have. I think back in 2019. But, I'm not saying names on who said it. But I could definitely say this was an awesome story. And to the author, which is Chris Stewart, you did a really good job. This story was amazing. You did awesome. Now, you guys are wondering, is there anything negative that I do have to say about this story? Well, it's a little short. It's not really a negative main per se. I just am saying that, I wish the story was just a little bit longer. That could be one thing. Like, it's good the way it is. I just wish there was like a little bit more explanation as how the virus or whatever, the zombie mutated virus is like, how are they being from the animals to humans, I guess there's like not really too much of an explanation to it, but other than that, it's actually a pretty good story. And this is on the regular Creepypasta Wiki. If you guys want to check out this story, feel free to. It's a pretty well made story, and I really highly recommend you check this story out. It's pretty good. Now, anyways, with that being the case, and with that being said, yeah, this is just simply my own personal opinion, and if you happen to disagree with me, that's fine too. We're all entitled to our own opinions regards to these creepypastas, and this is simply my own personal thoughts. My final rating of the story gets a 10 out of 10. It's a pretty good story. It was very enjoyable. It was really well made. The author did a really good job putting his effort in the story. I'm assuming it's a boy because it's male, because it's it's saying Chris Stewart. So most of these people that has the name Chris is usually guys. I'm just saying. But anyways, with that being the case and with that being said, what did you guys think about this creepypasta? Did you all enjoy it? Did you not? Also, what have you done person to help make this story a lot better? Leave me know what your thoughts are down in the comment section down below. I'm the Queen of Lions. Thank you so much for watching today's episode. And if you happen to be brand new here on this channel, be sure to like, comment, subscribe because I make brand new videos every single day. Don't forget to ring the notification bell when I upload, and you guys will not miss an upload. And as always, please roll the outro because I'm out.